Sometimes it doesn't take much to send my mind wandering back. The smell of fresh-baked apple pie drifting through the kitchen can do it, just like when Mama wore her old apron, humming a tune half under her breath. It's funny how a simple thing like that can unlock a treasure chest of memories. My name's Margaret, but folks call me Maggie, and I'm still here, sitting on this old porch, the creak of the swing keeping me company. Lately, I've been thinking about what real riches looked like when I was growing up, not the kind you put in a bank, but the kind you feel deep in your heart. Back in my day, we didn't have much money, as Daddy used to say, but we had each other. On late summer evenings, when the air grew thick and the cicadas sang, I can close my eyes and be right back in 1961, barefoot on dusty ground, the sun kissing the hills behind our house. Young folks might not understand, but there was something in the way the light hit the fields, golden and soft, like a promise that tomorrow would come, no matter how hard times were. There's a story I've kept to myself for years, but lately I've felt it's time to share. It's not heavy with sadness, but more like a song you haven't sung in ages, and you're afraid you'll forget the words. If I don't tell it now, it might slip away like smoke rising from a campfire at dawn. Memory is a funny thing. You don't always recall the big, important days. Sometimes, it's just a Wednesday evening, Mama cooking supper, Daddy at the table smelling of pipe tobacco and wood shavings, and you realize you're the richest little girl in the world, even if your shoes are full of holes and your dress is patched. We made do with what we had, and what we had was love, plain and simple. That summer of '61, sticky hot and stretching long as forever, was when I learned what real treasure was. Not piles of gold or shiny cars, but Mama's gentle touch when I scraped my knee, Daddy's deep laugh rolling across the porch at sundown, my sister Joanne teaching me to braid my hair, and my best friend Betty Lou whispering secrets under the magnolia tree. That was wealth, sure as I'm sitting here. I didn't know it then, of course. I thought rich folks were the ones in the big white house on the hill with 2 cars and fresh paint on the porch. But life has a way of teaching you the truth without you realizing you're being schooled. Looking back now, I see it clear as day. Tonight, with the stars blinking above and the crickets singing, I want to take you by the hand, like Mama used to do, and walk you back to those golden, dust-sweet days. Pull up a chair, sugar, and let me tell you about the real riches a heart can hold. There's no better feeling than knowing you were loved real good, real deep, and real true. If I close my eyes tight, I can still see our little white house, sitting in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by rows of corn stretching to meet the sky. A dusty dirt road, ready to swallow your Sunday shoes if you weren't careful. We lived past the railroad tracks, on the edge of town where the map gave up trying to find us. I was just a girl, 8 or 9, running wild with feet tough as leather, chasing chickens and climbing every tree I could find. Mama and Daddy didn't have much money, but they had more love in their pinky fingers than some folks have in a lifetime. Daddy worked at the mill, coming home covered in sawdust and smiles. Mama kept the house humming, baking, canning, singing hymns while mending clothes by lamplight. We didn't have electric lights until I was nearly 12. That's how we did things back then. Mornings smelled of bacon frying in the cast iron skillet, the screen door slamming as my brother Tommy and I tore into the yard, ready to take on the world. Summer nights buzzed with cicadas, the air thick with the sweet scent of honeysuckle. Life was slow, like molasses on a cold day, but it was full. Sitting on the porch, swinging my legs, I thought the world was mighty big, but our little patch of it was all I needed. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to be a school teacher, standing in front of a room of children, teaching them their letters and numbers like Miss Lila taught me. I dreamed of faraway places, maybe even the north, where folks said winters were so cold your breath turned to ice. But mostly, I dreamed of living a good life, full of kindness, songs, and laughter floating through the kitchen window. I believed kindness was the most important thing in the world. Mama used to say, while kneading biscuit dough with her flour-dusted hands, "Do right by people, sugar, and they'll come back around, one way or another." I believed that no matter how far you wandered, you'd find your way home if your heart was good and true. Back then, I didn't know much about the world's troubles. A bad day was when the jar of blackberry jam fell off the pantry shelf and shattered. My world was small, a handful of people, a pocket full of dreams, and a sky so wide it could swallow you whole. But oh, how rich it felt. I wasn't thinking about money or fame or fancy things. I was wondering if Mama would let us have 2 slices of pie after supper, or if Daddy would let me sit on his lap while he read the newspaper aloud. Simple things, the kind that stick with you long after the shoes wear out and the paint peels off the porch. I knew what real wealth was, even as a little girl. It wasn't something you could hold in your hands. It was something you carried in your heart, like a secret you didn't need to share. I'm mighty glad I grew up knowing it. It was late summer, sticky and sweet, the fields humming with locusts. I was standing at the edge of our dirt road, kicking a stone with my shoe, when a stranger walked up, tall, lanky, with a smile that didn't quite know whether to stay or go. His name was James, but folks called him Jimmy. He was working at the feed store for the summer, helping his uncle mend fences. I remember how he tipped his hat, polite-like, even though I was just a skinny girl with a braid and a smudge of dirt on my cheek. Something inside me fluttered, like a hummingbird's wings beating against my ribs. My cheeks burned hotter than a July sun as I watched him disappear down the road, whistling a tune I couldn't catch. That was the first time I felt something bigger than the everyday. After that, I found every excuse to hang around the feed store. Mama needed flour or coffee or thread, and I'd run errands with my heart racing, hoping to catch a glimpse of that lopsided grin. Sometimes Jimmy helped me load a sack of flour onto Daddy's wagon, and I'd catch the scent of fresh-cut hay and soap on his shirt. Back then, just a smile or a nod from someone like Jimmy was enough to keep a girl floating for a week. I barely spoke to him, just "thank you kindly" or "Mama appreciates it." That was enough. One day, he slipped a folded note into my hand, quick as a wink. I opened it under the magnolia tree, my heart hammering. It read, "You got the prettiest smile I ever saw. Hope you have a nice day." Simple, but it felt richer than anything in Mr. Waller's cash register. Looking back, it wasn't just a girl's first crush. It was about feeling seen, knowing someone thought you were special, even for a moment. Don't we all need that sometimes? Jimmy's uncle left at the end of the season, and just like that, he was gone, leaving only a memory and a crinkled note tucked in my Bible. But it changed me. It showed me life can hand you a spark that lights something new inside you. Jimmy was that spark for me. Memories like that don't fade. They soften, like an old quilt stitched with love, time, and a little heartbreak. I'll carry that spark with me always, sure as the cicadas sing every summer. Life can turn on a dime. One day you're running through fields, heart light as a feather, and the next, the world doesn't feel safe anymore. That same summer of '61, Mama sat me down on the porch steps, her hands twisting her apron into knots. I knew something was wrong before she spoke. Daddy had taken sick, real sick, and the doctor didn't have good news. I was too young to understand the big words, but I felt the fear like a heavy quilt. Mama tried to smile, saying Daddy just needed rest, but you can't fool a child about things like that. Daddy's laugh stopped ringing from the porch. His chair sat empty, and the house felt hollow, like a song cut short. We did what we could. Mama took on washing, Tommy worked extra at the feed store, and I helped with beans, the little ones, and the chickens. But I felt helpless, like a boat adrift on an angry sea. I was mad at the world, the doctor, even God sometimes. I had my doubts, though folks might think otherwise. One evening, I slipped out to the barn and cried until my throat hurt, hiding in the hay so no one could hear. I felt ashamed for crying, for being scared, like I was letting everyone down. Mama said we had to keep our heads high, but some nights, that was too much to bear. Church ladies whispered we might have to sell the farm, saying a man without strength had little to stand on. I hated hearing it, seeing Mama's face tighten when neighbors came with fake smiles. That was when I learned some folks will pat your hand, but count your pennies behind your back. I carried a knot of fear and shame, feeling we weren't good enough or strong enough. That's a heavy load for a little girl. But even in that mess, there were glimmers of light. Daddy Lou snuck over with stolen cookies and silly jokes to make me smile. Mama, even with tired eyes, brushed my hair back and called me her sunshine. That's when my real dilemma began, not just how we'd make it, but whether I could be the brave, strong, good person Mama believed in. I wasn't sure. I felt small and lost most days. Life doesn't wait for you to figure things out. It keeps moving, like a river after a storm, pulling you along. I hum on, hoping and praying we'd find our way back to the light. Some moments burn so deep you can still feel them years later. I was 14 the day the world tilted. It was a Sunday, the house smelling of Mama's fried chicken, hymnals floating in from the church down the road. Daddy had been poorly for weeks, barely making it to his chair. That day, he didn't get up at all. I was setting the table, humming, when Mama called out, soft and scared, from the bedroom. Her voice cracked, and I dropped the plates, shattering them like ice on a river. I ran to the bedroom where the air felt thick and wrong. Daddy lay still, one hand on his chest, like he was napping. But he wasn't breathing. Time stopped. The clock on the mantel ticked louder than my heartbeat, then fell silent. Mama dropped to her knees, whispering no, 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 like she could turn back time. I stood frozen, staring at Daddy's face, wanting to scream, cry, tear the sky down, but nothing came out, just a hollow ache spreading through me. Folks say to be strong in tough times, but they don't tell you how small you'll feel. I thought if I stood still, maybe it wasn't happening. Maybe Daddy would laugh and say we were fussing over nothing. But he didn't. That day, I lost more than my daddy. I lost the girl who thought the world was good and fair, who believed love could hold everything together. We buried him under the oak at the churchyard, where he'd carved our initials. Standing there, clutching Mama's hand, I wondered how the world could keep turning without him. Everything changed. The house felt colder, nights stretched longer. Mama's hair grayed overnight. I tried to be brave, but some nights, I curled up under my quilt, biting my lip to keep from sobbing, feeling it was wrong to make noise in a silent world. Loss doesn't just break your heart, it rearranges it. It makes you someone new, someone who carries sorrow like a smooth, heavy stone, always there, no matter how bright the sun shines. That was when I understood growing up happens in cracks and breaks, until one day you're someone else, stronger, sadder, but knowing how deep love and loss can cut. I kept walking, one step, one breath, one memory at a time. After Daddy passed, the world seemed hushed, like a quilt thrown over everything, muting sounds and softening colors. Mornings came gray, nights dragged on like a sad song. I did my chores, feeding chickens, hauling water, mending socks, but everything felt dull, like the shine had gone out of the world. Mama tried. She sang while stirring biscuit dough, set an extra place at the table like Daddy might walk in. But her eyes didn't laugh anymore, and neither did mine. I wasn't the bright-eyed girl who believed kindness could fix everything. She'd left with Daddy's boots and Sunday hat. In her place was someone quieter, who'd learned the world could take from you, no matter how good you were. I spent nights behind the chicken coop, staring at the stars, wondering if I'd done something wrong, if I wasn't good enough. Grief twists your thinking. I didn't stop believing in God, but I learned his answer to prayers was sometimes silence, and you had to carry that shadow. The town kept moving, stores opened, church bells rang, babies were born, the river rose. But I felt like I was watching life through a window, too far to touch. That's loneliness, not being alone, but feeling you don't belong. Mama did her best to keep us together, but some days, I caught her staring into nowhere, hands still, eyes lost. My dreams shrank to small things, a warm meal, a dry roof, a day when Mama smiled without pain. Loss isn't loud wailing. It's quiet, a slow erasing, like the tide pulling sand from under your feet until you're left wondering where the ground went. That was when I learned to keep going, even when I didn't feel like it, to plant seeds, smile politely, and say, just fine, thank you, even when my heart hung by a thread. I wasn't that laughing girl anymore, but I wasn't broken. I was tougher, quieter, knowing the world owed you nothing, but you could still find beauty if you kept your eyes open. Hope doesn't always crash through the door. Sometimes it slips in quietly, like a breeze through a cracked window. After that heavy season, I wasn't expecting much, just putting one foot in front of the other. But life hands you a second chance when you're not looking. It started simply. Mama decided we should help Miss Clara, a widow with a garden too big to manage. One Saturday, she rousted me before dawn, shoved a biscuit in my hand, and marched me to Clara's. I didn't want to go. I was tired, sad, mad that the world kept asking for more when I had nothing left. But Mama's look meant no arguing, so I went. Something happened in that weedy patch of dirt. Kneeling, pulling thistles, feeling the sun on my back, I felt different. Just a little at first, like the world wasn't all grief. Like there was still good to find if you dug for it. Miss Clara made sweet tea, and when we sat on her porch, she patted my hand and said, "You got a good heart, Maggie May. Don't let the world harden it." Those words soaked into me like rain into dry ground. That was the start. Little by little, I found my way back, helping Mama with wash, walking to town with Betty Lou, reading to the little ones at church. Small kindnesses, like beads on a string, patched my heart together. I still miss Daddy, but I learned you can miss someone and move forward. Loss lights the path, like a lantern in the dark. I started dreaming again, quiet dreams of teaching school, planting a garden, singing in the choir without my voice shaking. Small but mighty, like seeds waiting to bloom. The thing that breaks you shows you the strength you've carried all along, not loud, but stubborn, saying, "I'm still here." That quiet hope is enough to build a life on, one breath, one sunlit day at a time. There comes a time when you're tired of carrying heartache like a sack of wet cotton. It wasn't one big moment for me, no lightning bolt. It was a slow waking, like a warm spring breeze slipping under a winter door, whispering you're not stuck in the cold forever. One afternoon, sorting through Daddy's boots, Mama's hymn book, and a tin box of letters, I found Jimmy's note. "You got the prettiest smile I ever saw. Hope you have a nice day." Holding that soft, aged paper, tears came, big, heavy tears for Daddy. Mama, the girl I'd been, whose heart life had broken. When the crying wore out, I sat still and realized the pain was part of me, but not all of me. That's when I chose to live, not just exist, but live with my whole, patched heart. I took the note back, not to cling to the past, but because it was part of the road that made me who I was. That road, with all its potholes, shaped me. That evening, I built a small fire out back and burned old sorrows, a broken ribbon, a cracked photo, letters of unkept promises. I watched them curl into the stars and whispered, "I forgive you." And I forgive myself. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's loosening your grip on what weighs you down so your hands are free for something new. Some days I still reach for sadness, but most days I turn toward the sun and keep walking. I chose to live without clinging to what might have been or demanding answers. It's a choice I make every day, 1,000 little decisions to keep loving, hoping, trying no matter how heavy my heart feels. I'll keep choosing life until my last breath, a promise to myself and every piece of my story. The funny thing about a long life is you see patterns you missed when you were young. I thought life was big moments, first kisses, graduations, weddings. I thought happiness would burst in like sunlight through clouds, but it's stitched from quiet moments, small kindnesses, everyday mercies you miss if you're not paying attention. When I was young, I thought the good stuff was always ahead, waiting like a shiny train. But while I waited, life was happening, Mama's laugh, Daddy's rough hands, Betty Lou's secrets. You blink, and those small moments become the whole story. If I could tell you one thing, it's this. Don't wait for something grand to be happy. Don't hold your breath for loud miracles. Real miracles are quiet, forgiveness after silence, a baby's sleepy sigh, a friend's hand on a hard day. Joy is already yours, like a cat purring, waiting for you to notice. I used to think I had to earn joy, be better, smarter, richer. But forgiveness is something you give yourself to walk lighter, to see the sky instead of your feet. The past, sweet and bitter, made me who I am, and I'm grateful for every heartbreak, lesson, and moment of grace. If you're wondering when your real life will start, stop waiting. Your life's happening in the love you give, the songs you hum. You don't have to be ready or perfect, just be here. You're already enough. If you've sat with me through the story, bless your soul. Sharing it is like handing over a piece of my favorite quilt, worn soft from living. I hope you felt my world wrap around you tonight. My story isn't just the past, not just Mama's biscuits or Daddy's laugh. It's about today, this breath we're sharing. All those days, joy, heartache, hopes are stitched into who I am, watching stars from this creaky swing. If we stopped rushing, chasing bigger things, we'd see what matters, the curl of a baby's fingers, the smell of summer rain, the stir of an old song. Sometimes, late at night, when memories grow loud, I wonder about first loves, goodbyes, and whether some bonds ever break. Does real love ever leave? Does it wait, flickering like a light in the mist? I don't have all the answers, but I believe good love, stitched with patience and forgiveness, doesn't vanish. It settles into your life, sweet and steady, like fresh bread baking. If you listen, you might feel it brush your cheek like a breeze, reminding you you're not alone. So, dear heart, what do you believe? Does true love find its way home, or does it never leave, living in the soft spaces between what's said and unsaid? Sometimes, I think those we loved, those we lost, remember us. Maybe they smile when we smile, walk beside us on rough roads, stir the wind chimes, or play an old song to say, I'm still here, sugar. I never left. Maybe we'll see them again on a golden afternoon with no goodbyes, just laughter and pie cooling on the windowsill. For now, I'm grateful for the love I had, the lessons learned, the songs I hum, and for you, sharing your heart with mine. Until we meet again, keep your eyes open for small miracles. Don't forget to smile, you never know who's remembering you too.